diseases that were rare in 70 and 80-year-olds a few years ago are now common in 30 and 40-year-olds. Why? What's changed in culture? What's changed in society? Measure, understand, mitigate, and mend. I don't care if it's food colorings, food additives, anything man-made, anything synthetic, man-made EMFs. Reduce your exposure, unload your camel.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming by for another episode of the Ben Wehrman podcast. We have today Anthony Smith. He is the COO at EMF Safe, which is a company focused on both educating and providing solutions to this new health rabbit hole of electromagnetic frequencies, which more and more people are figuring out are not good for us little meatbag humans, having all these crazy currents running all over the place that are not natural. So we've done a couple episodes on this in the past, but I'm really excited to bring it back. It's been a little while. This is an important one for people. So Anthony Smith, thank you for coming by, man.
You're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me. Good to chat with you.
So I first heard of you when I was going through and listening to Tristan Scott's podcast, Decentralized Radio. Yeah. I had him on here a while ago as well. He gave me the rundown on all the electromagnetic frequency stuff, and I would love to hear your take. And we love to get a good story here. So how did you even get into this? What's your backstory? Where did you come from? How did you get into really focusing on EMFs as your main priority?
Many years ago, at college, I studied hotel keeping, catering, administration, and part of that course, we had to study health and nutrition because some of us might be going into industrial catering and hospitals and institutional places like that. So I got interested in health and nutrition all those years ago, and have maintained an interest in it ever since. Obviously, been through the whole potions and lotions, the vitamins, and all the things that we all have been through in years gone by, and they still have a place in health and nutrition. I do think that vitamins packaged by nature in the food that we eat is the primary way to get those, but that's a whole nother story. But from that, I've always been interested and looked at alternative health things that have been available, using vibration and frequency. The Rife machine and things like that have always been interesting to me. And certainly they were getting results that traditional medicine didn't seem to be able to get. And maybe because of the opposition against them by the establishment caused me to be even more interested in them. So that led to kind of got into red light therapy there for a while. At the time, there weren't really any devices out there, or the choice was extremely limited. And I found out that the security lights that are used for infrared, when you look lenses around the central lens in the middle, and they put out infrared so the camera can see it. When you have a warehouse and they've got infrared cameras in them, they floodlight the place with infrared light. Excuse me, sorry for my voice. Turns out that frequency that they use is 850 nanometers, which is exactly the same frequency that the very expensive at the time red light devices were using. So I started buying security lights and making up infrared panels for people and at a fraction of the cost. And also incorporating grow lights, which are full spectrum lights that incorporated infrared and UV, because and all of these light frequencies are considered part of the EMF broader spectrum. So this all ties in with EMF as well. But the light that we receive from the sun is full spectrum, but not just the visible light spectrum. It also incorporates 5% UV on one side and 42% near infrared on the other side. And it's that balance and blend of all of those frequencies working together that make natural sunlight, full spectrum light works so well. It's why plants need it. They die if they don't have it. It's why fish need it. They die if they don't have it. It's why reptiles need it. They die if they don't have it. Why do we humans think we can get away without having full spectrum light? So it's just not a matter of not avoiding EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. We need electromagnetic frequencies, natural, God-given EMF from nature, or we will die. But it's important that we get the full spectrum. And the man-made frequencies in isolation can actually cause a problem, and they're not part of the solution, they're part of the problem. So infrared led into the whole non-native EMF investigation, how light, how EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, how the electric fields that we're exposed to, how the magnetic fields that we're exposed to. Included in that is radio frequency, which is our TV, radio, cell phones, microwaves, that whole part of the spectrum. And all of these man-made frequencies can do harm and damage. And I think one of the, words work for some people. Other people need visuals. So this is a Gauss meter. And as I hold this magnet up against it, you can see, I don't know if you can hear it, but the light is flashing. So when I hold this magnet away and spin the magnet, it throws out a magnetic field. Now, I'm going to put this up against my back. So this magnetic field, that magnetic field is going through my body, through my heart, and showing up on the meter. It's going through my brain. Well, I could do the same thing with a cell phone and an RF reading, but I don't want to cook my pineal gland. I don't want to cook my brain. But when we hold the phone up against our head, those fields, those frequencies, just like the magnetic field I just showed you, is going through our body. And that's why minimizing the EMF that we're exposed to is so important, because on its way through, those electromagnetic frequencies interfere with the natural frequencies in our body. Our body runs on DC voltage. When you go to a doctor, get an EKG or an EEG, they're measuring the natural fields in our body. This is not harmful. It's actually a DC field, so it's not negatively interfering with my body. It actually can be very beneficial in breaking up energy. If you've got a sore muscle or something like that, this can actually help to break up and reestablish the natural flow of energy in your body. So,
and it's just EMF, a spinning magnet. That's all it is, right?
Yeah. This is a magnet.
Yeah. So for people listening on audio, it's like this little contraction where you just spin a magnet, and that's so interesting. I didn't know that would actually create a field, but I've heard about this just recently. That I mentioned Tristan earlier, his podcast. That I saw him make a post about the best seat to sit in an airplane is actually the farthest away you can get from the engines, which I didn't know, because the engine spinning super fast creates that magnetic field you're talking about, and that's not a good kind. It's a huge one. So it's saying basically you want to be at the very back of the plane if possible, as furthest away. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. So if you've got a hairdryer or a fan, that spinning magnet is throwing out a magnetic field. But that's how we make electricity. We take magnets and we spin them to make, that's a generator. That's an alternator in your car. So even though a gas engine, everybody thinks, oh, electric engines are really bad. Actually, some of them have very, very low electric and magnetic fields, just because of the way they're built and the way they're positioned. But if you're sitting in a gasoline car and the alternator is right down there in between the front seats, in the engine well, you're being bathed in a magnetic field the whole time the engine is running. So gasoline cars aren't in and of themselves necessarily better than electric cars. And then, of course, in the modern cars, you add to that the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. I mean, it's bad enough us having a cell phone on in the car with us. I can put this on airplane mode, and where I live out in the boonies, I can get to the end of my driveway, and I'm out of range of a cell tower. And I basically, on my RF meter, got close to a 0 reading. I take this off of airplane mode, it goes up to 20,000 on the scale. So if you're in a modern car, you've probably got the equivalent of 2, 3, or 4, 5 cell phones in the car, part of the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, and all the systems that are running. And so you're inside a metal box. You're literally inside a microwave oven with the microwave running, because guess what frequency this runs on? It's 2.4 gigahertz. Guess what frequency Bluetooth is? It's 2.4 gigahertz. Guess what frequency the microwave oven is? 2.4 gigahertz. So you put on a Bluetooth headset, that's broadcasting 2.4 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, excuse me. There's no bone here, it's all soft tissue. Those two headsets are talking to each other. You are literally microwaving your brain. And I've got a photograph on my website with the meter in the middle, and it's just taking an ambient reading of the RF in that space. I then put the ear pods, take them out of the case, put them right down next to the meter on either side. 100x, not 100%, 100% is doubled. 100x greater radio frequency when you put those Bluetooth headsets in. So it's not any one particular thing. It's everything collectively together. EMF is cumulative. Nobody died of having a cigarette. But 20 a day for 20 years, that'll get you. It's not the straw that breaks the camel's back that's the problem. Everybody thinks the cell phone tower, the smart meter, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for them. So they think that's the problem. And what I like to point out to people is that's not the problem. The problem is the load on the camel in the first place. So if you unload your camel, which is what we help you do, we help you identify all the sources of the non-native EMF, the harmful stuff. We reduce your exposure, we unload your camel, which means the cell phone tower down the street, which you can do nothing about, probably might not be a problem anymore, because the level of exposure that you now have is 70% less than what it was, which means adding a straw to the camel that's had 70% of the load removed, it's not that big a deal. So I'd use the analogy of a cigarette doesn't hurt anybody, but 20 a day for 20 years. You know, 20 minutes on the phone may not hurt you, but 20 minutes a day for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that you're cooking your brain. So being aware of these things and measuring them with meters, identifying what the problem is and whether it's at a level that is of concern, and if it is, reducing your exposure, that's what we help you with. We have the tools to empower you, to equip you to make an informed decision so that you can not talk on the phone, but hold it away from you on speakerphone, put a shield up between you and the phone so that when you're talking on it, you're not getting radiated, because the signal which comes out from this thing 360 degrees is only going that way, not coming towards you, because I've got a shield between me. Some cases you can buy do this for you. So all these little tips and tricks added up together can make a big difference of your overall exposure. But the number one thing that we can do is create an EMF mitigated sleep sanctuary. So what that is we identify the circuits in your bed, in your bedroom, that you're exposed to, because the electric field is the elephant in the room. The E of EMF, the electric field, is the elephant in the room. That 60 hertz frequency is interfering with your brain and your body in a very, very significant way, because that's very, very close to the frequency that your brain runs at. And for you to go to sleep, to get the deep dive into restful sleep at night, your brain needs to drop down into alpha. Alpha waves are Schumann resonance, but so you're between 8 and 12 hertz. But if you're laying in a vibrational frequency that's vibrating at 60 times a second, that's major interference to the brain to get you down into that restful state of sleep. And the 60 hertz also interferes with the pineal gland in the middle of your brain, which is between those two Bluetooth headsets being cooked. And the pineal gland is responsible for releasing melatonin, which not only helps you sleep, it's responsible for controlling dozens, if not hundreds, of other mechanisms that are going on at night to help you heal and detox and restore and recuperate. So this is really, really important stuff. And by reducing your exposure at night, when we're significantly more sensitive to the effects of EMF, maybe 10 times, by creating a sleep sanctuary, you're actually reducing your overall exposure by about 70%. And so that gives the body back all of that energy that it was using to fight the effect of EMF. Now that it can use that energy to heal, to restore, to recoup, to recover, to detox. And all of a sudden, strangely enough, when we help people create a sleep sanctuary, the symptoms start getting better. Whereas before they were barely hanging on to their health or actually getting a little bit worse every day, all of a sudden they start recovering. We see big, big results.
I can give quite an interesting anecdote on that, actually. I lived in Costa Rica for a couple of months recently, and it was a bunch of friends in this really cool house where we were all very health oriented. We were all challenging each other to be super healthy and do all these different things. And one of the things that I was dead set on being perfect on was turning off the Wi-Fi every night, because I've always heard that that is very bad to have on at nighttime. There's no reason to have it on. Those waves are going all through the house, through your body, and disrupting your sleep, as you talked about. So I every night I would turn that Wi-Fi router off, except one night I forgot it, and I literally woke up in the middle of the night. For the only time on that entire trip, I woke up in the middle of the night and had a little trouble getting back to sleep. So I think this is a huge piece of people's sleep problems, is that the fact that these waves are everywhere. And that was super interesting. And something I'd love a little bit more detail on. You talked about how we know that the man-made frequencies and the nature-given frequencies are very different. You said that, was it 2.4 hertz or gigahertz that was the bad one, the microwave? Is it all just about the hertz level, the frequency? Like, how do we know which ones are good, which ones are bad?
Yeah, well, the universe is full of vibration and frequency. So everything is energy and or matter, for that matter, vibrating at different frequencies. So just like with sound, you can combine different sounds and they can be very harmonious, very peaceful, very relaxing. Or you can add in one or two other notes and all of a sudden you've got this disharmony, a discord, and it just grates on, it just makes you feel really uncomfortable. Certain sounds, certain rock songs will make people very agitated and very angry, whereas other music, Baroque music, you got classical music, prayer and meditation music that helps you, that has that frequency in it, the alpha wave frequencies that helps your brain relax, because the brain will synchronize with the sound coming from the music to help you establish that restful state of being. Now, if you can imagine listening to a beautiful piece of prayer meditation music, but you've got Animal the drummer from Sesame Street playing in the background, that's really what we have going on with the natural frequency of the planet, which is Schumann resonance. It actually varies throughout the day and throughout the year, between 8-ish and 12, which is the alpha frequencies. I believe now it's up to about 12 on a regular basis. So it does change, and that affects us. But when we, at night, our brains naturally synchronize with the heartbeat of the earth, the Schumann resonance. But if we've got this man-made 60 hertz, and if you're watching in Europe or somewhere else, it might be 50 hertz, that frequency vibrating. So those wavelengths are going through your brain, through your body, interfering with the natural systems. Our body runs on DC. Those frequencies are AC, alternating currents, because it's vibrating. DC is just one constant stream, whereas AC is a wave, and the hertz, because Mr. Hertz discovered this, is the vibration, the frequency. So 60 hertz is 60 times a second. So a cell phone at 2.4 gigahertz is what, millions of times a second. So why the microwave oven is 2.4 gigahertz to cook our food, why they use that for Wi-Fi, why they use it for Bluetooth, I have no idea. But these frequencies are very interfering and distracting to our body. And, as much as we can reduce them, identify them, find out what's there, turn them off at night. If you can't turn it off, then put up a screen between you and it and block it, or move it as far away from you as possible. In an office, you got the paper shredder down by your feet. You've got your printer there. Put the printer 6 feet away. Unplug the paper shredder. You only use it once a week. Put it on the other side of the room. All of these are different ways that we can reduce our overall exposure. But nighttime is the number one thing. You're laying in bed. You've got a plug on one side. You've got a plug on the other side. And you've got multiple wires running through the wall. They're 12 inches from your head, putting out a vibration, a frequency that travels 6 to 8 feet. So it's literally washing over your whole body. But the Schumann, synchronizing with Schumann at night is a vital part of us, the healing process, and our biorhythms and all of that stuff just working properly.
One of the things you just mentioned there that I didn't know until relatively recently is how even if you turn off the Wi-Fi and these things that are pumping out these frequencies, even just a wall outlet with something plugged into it is also pushing that out. If an outlet doesn't even have anything plugged into it, is it still putting out frequencies, or does it have to have something plugged into it?
Well, that's the thing. We think of the outlet being the problem. It's not the outlet in and of itself that's the problem. That's just the wires running through the wall. And then you have outlets that you can access that circuit. But the wire running through the wall is what the problem is. It's putting out a field 6 to 8 feet. The full length of that wire coming from the breaker panel in your house, running through the house, all those wires you might have in 1,000 square foot house, you might have half a mile to a mile of wires when you add up the positives and negatives and the grounds. So all the positives, and if you have an open circuit, it's flowing, all the negatives are radiating out 6 to 8 feet in all directions. It's not the outlet. It's the wire connecting all the outlets. So by turning off that, that's why we need just unplugging things in your bedroom doesn't necessarily solve the problem, because the wire running through the wall is where the field is coming from. So by turning off the circuit at the wall, and we make the EMF Safe cutoff switch, which allows you to safely do that, all you need to be concerned about is the on-off button by the side of your bed. You push the button, it sends out a micro pulse, just like the key fob on your car that you use to lock and unlock your car door. It's not broadcasting all the time. You hit the button, you kill the circuit. The power from the breaker panel is completely disconnected. You have no electric field. You have no magnetic field. You have no dirty electricity, because dirty electricity is an artifact, a harmonic or a disharmonic of the 60 hertz. If you've got any RF, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth device plugged into that circuit, like the TV on the wall in the bedroom, you're killing that. So the biggest bang for the buck, the simplest, the easiest, and the safest way to reduce your daily exposure is identify which circuits are affecting you in your bedroom. You don't need to turn off the whole house. You don't need to turn off the kitchen or the heater or any the security system necessarily. Maybe some people, because of the way the house is wired, might need to do a little bit of rewiring, but most of the time we don't. So you just identify the 2, 3, 4 circuits running through the bedroom. And one of those circuits, 2 of those circuits, may have nothing to do with your bedroom, but that was just the shortest distance between A and B. It's the room next door, and it's running up right underneath your bed. So sometimes, if you've got upstairs bedroom. You have to turn off the light circuit for the room underneath because obviously the lights in the ceiling are right underneath your bed. So we might have to turn off that circuit. But that's why we use the body voltage meter. You lay in the bed. This has a ground cord on it, which goes into the ground. We're giving the electric, your body acts as an antenna. You're giving the electric field a path of least resistance to ground through the ground cord. And as it's going to ground, we can measure the strength of the field. So when we turn off a circuit in the bedroom, the body voltage drops. We want the body voltage to be below, ideally below 10 millivolts. In the modern world, it's almost impossible to do that. So we say 100 millivolts. During the day, sitting in your office below 1,000 millivolts or 1 volt. 1 volt is 1,000 millivolts. So these are the targets we're aiming for, obviously. Always. The lower, the better. So, yeah, just turning off those 2 or 3 circuits, hit the button at night, sleep in an EMF mitigated sleep sanctuary. Putting the Wi-Fi router on one of those circuits that you turn off is a really good idea, so you don't have to worry about that if you forget to turn off the Wi-Fi. You sleep like a baby. In the morning, you push the on button. Life goes on. So we are helping people to measure. We help them to understand. We have a consulting business, and we help people understand and interpret the data, come up with a mitigation plan so that you can mend. So that's measure, understand, mitigate, measure, understand, mitigate so that you can mend. Mum's the word. Mum's always taking care of her kids.
Amazing. I love that. And that is important stuff and one step above what I understood before, because like I said, I was turning off the Wi-Fi, but there's still plugs around with those wires in the wall that I didn't know about. So this is a great next step for people to truly shut all that stuff down when you go to bed, because there should be absolutely none of this around you. And that's super cool, because it's a lot of work for people to figure out how to get all those wire, and it probably would be unsafe to try to figure out how to get that all sorted out personally. So you have some kind of electrician consultant that goes out to people's houses and switches things up in a certain way, or is this something that people just have to buy this product and then there's an easy way for them to do it themselves?
Yeah, people go to our website, which is liveemfsafe.com, L-I-V-E, EMF Safe, liveemfsafe.com. You can see the device. It's a metal box, just looks like the breaker panel that your breakers are in on the wall, 12 inches wide, 4 inches deep, and either 12, 18, or 24 inches, depending upon how many circuits you want to turn off. That goes, it's installed next to your breaker panel in your garage or the basement, wherever it happens to be. And you pull out the wires from the breaker. They run through ours. So now we've got a relay in series. So when you push the button, the relay opens or closes, whichever way you want to look at it, kills the power to that circuit. And then in the morning, you push the button and the power comes back on again. So it's not inconveniencing with your lifestyle. These are circuits that you don't need on while you're asleep. If you have some medical equipment, a CPAP machine or something, we have some workarounds for that. You turn off the circuit to the bedroom and then run a extension cord in from maybe, the hallway or a room close by that still has the power on, because we're not killing the house. And then you just put the CPAP machine as far away from the bed as possible. Some people need a fan. Some people need a air purifier because of mold issues and things like that. So we can we have workarounds for all of those things. So if people are asking those questions, yeah, but what about this or what about that? Yeah, we can help you with all of that. So that's where the understanding comes in. And then we come up with a mitigation plan, which is custom designed for you. I was saying our goal is to get you below 100 millivolts. It is not uncommon when I first measure a house, a person lays in the bed, we take a body voltage reading to find 2,000 or 3,000 millivolts, which is 20 to 30 times higher than the recommended minimum, or the reading that's of slight concern. I've been into houses where it was 7,000, 6,000, 7,000 millivolts. And just recently I was talking to a gentleman. He ordered a body voltage meter from us He had 12,000 millivolts on his bed. He had an adjustable bed. It was plugged in. So not only does he have the motor, but it wasn't only when the bed was being adjusted. The fact that it was plugged in, that circuit, those wires running from the wall to the inverter to the 12-volt motors were radiating out, and he was being radiated by 12,000 millivolts all night long. He unplugged the bed. He unplugged the 2 metal lamps on either side of the bed, and he got it down to a couple of thousand millivolts just by doing that. And then we started identifying the circuits from the panel that when he turned those off, he got it down to a very, very reasonable level, certainly compared to what he was living in. And surprise, surprise, all of a sudden his symptoms, his medical condition started to clear up.
What are the kinds of stories you hear from people? Because I'm sure that people are very surprised. They can feel the difference. Like I said, I could feel the difference that night. I had no idea it was that big of a factor in our sleep quality and our health. So what stories have you heard from people just making a simple switch and seeing benefits?
The one, if I can get through telling the story without being emotional, I very rarely can. We had a family. They had a child on the spectrum, 5 years old. The child had never spoken. They'd been flipping off the breakers, but they ordered a EMF Safe cutoff switch, which disconnects the power and the neutral. They installed the cutoff switch, and within 1 week, the child started talking. I'm not saying full sentences.
Amazing.
But they started vocalizing, which they had never done for 5 years. So
wow.
Children on the spectrum, people on the spectrum, tend to be far more sensitive to EMF. I don't know if the being on the spectrum causes their sensitivity, chicken and egg. I don't know if one causes the other, but one's affected by the other. There's also some anecdotal information from California 2 or 3 years ago where they were having all these brownouts, and some areas were turned out for a week. They had no power for a week. And families that had children on the spectrum reported a radical improvement in their condition within that week, simply because they no longer creating a sleep sanctuary is a big one. So because of the effect of EMF on us at night versus the effects on us during the day. But how many times do these children have a iPad as a babysitter? They're there in front of a television screen or an iPad or a computer, playing games because that occupies their brain. But all of that flicker, that light frequency, that blue light, is also having a negative impact on our systems. But yeah, we can use that kind of like the canary in the coal mine. We can see the advantages of reducing EMF very, very significantly, radically obvious in certain people that have that higher level of sensitivity. But it is affecting, EMF affects 100% of us. Now, whether it's enough to cause symptoms, maybe we're not there yet. It's loading up the camel. You never want to get to the point where that last straw breaks the back, because once you become hypersensitive, your life will be miserable. We had one guy to go to the store. He had to plan his trip meticulously. He was so sensitive to EMF. He had 5 minutes in the store. Drag himself back home, and took 2 days to recover before he could function again normally. He got an EMF Safe switch. Took a few weeks, a couple of months. Then he could go to the store, take a couple of hours. Still impacted him, but he'd go home, and in a couple of hours, not 2 days, but 2 hours, he was fully functional again. because he created a sleep sanctuary and his body could recoup and recover, and he gained back that much in a relatively short period of time just by having a sleep sanctuary. Yeah.
That's really amazing. And I just can only imagine how many people out there are dealing with these issues. They don't know what's causing it because these things are invisible. People,
Yeah.
It's hard enough for people to figure out the problems with the things that they can see and feel, like what food they're eating, and people.
And we can make
them
them visible. Yeah, with the RF meter, a Gauss meter, the body voltage meter, we can make all these things visible. This is an E-pen, and turn it on, it lights up. And if I get close to an EMF source, my system's grounded, so it's not working. But you know, the light flashes and it beeps, so we can find hidden wires with the pen in the walls, the floors, the ceilings. If you still have a unusually high reading with the body voltage reading and you turned off all the circuits you think you can turn off, you can just sweep the floor with this. And when this starts beeping, it means there's another circuit running underneath the bed that you haven't found yet. So you leave the pen on the floor, it's beeping. Somebody goes to the breaker panel and you just go through the breaker panel and you find that circuit and turn it off. That needs to be on your list for the cutoff switch. Sometimes people, well, I turned off every circuit in the panel and it's still beeping. You have a sub panel? No, I don't. Yes, you do. They go through the closets and there it is in the corner. They've got a sub panel and there's a breaker in the sub panel that needs to be turned off. And, you know, we were able to find it with the body voltage meter and the pen. Actually, sometimes we do turn off all the circuits. This is a very interesting one that just came up recently. We turned off all the circuits and the child's bedroom still had 2,700 millivolts. The house is turned off. They had a Sonos system. That's the computerized sound system that puts music into all the rooms and it'll follow you around. And they have a separate controller. A lot of them run on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Their Sonos system had a battery backup system. So when we killed the power to the main panel, we turned off the house. The battery backup system kicked in, so the Sonos system was still active, and the speaker right underneath the kid's bed was radiating out a field from the Sonos system, from the speaker, from the Sonos system, because it was on battery backup. That's how weird this stuff can be. You kill a house, and they still had 2,700 millivolts. So we identified that problem and solved that problem. It's so fascinating. We have no idea. And when you start measuring, it is absolutely mind-boggling and fascinating, the things that you find. And yeah, people get really caught. I mean, one of my biggest problems is it's the lady of the house that's concerned. Ladies tend to be a little more sensitive than guys do. The guys are going, what are you talking about? I've been around electric fields all my life. And what are you talking about? You know, there's nothing to it. And we show up and we show them the gadgets and they start going around the house. And then, you know, we can't get the equipment back because there's guys running around the house taking all these measurements. But, you know, the skeptical husband, wife, you know, for a peaceful life, you know, allows the wife to turn off the circuit at night. She calls us the next day. I dreamt for the first time in as long as I can remember. I dreamt in color for the first time. I normally only dream in black and white. I woke up this morning for the first time in 5 years without a migraine. My husband didn't snore last night for the first time in as long as I can remember, just because they turned off the circuits to the bedroom. Yeah. And there is another side effect to turning off the EMS. When I've had a couple of calls from guys saying, Anthony, you haven't mentioned this, but are there any other side effects to this? I go, what are you talking about? He said, you're a guy, you know. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
Very
another side
sensitive
effect.
parts of the body are going to be affected worse.
All of a sudden, things that weren't working as well as you wanted them to start working again. So, yeah, we don't advertise that one, but it can be
I
a
think you
benefit.
should. You'll sell a lot more products.
Well, yeah.
This is why people need to understand just the different parts of our body, how they all work so differently, and things like that. That's the most sensitive part of a man's body. So when that starts going away, that's a very clear sign something's wrong. And more men need to be really thinking about that.
And madam, if that's a problem in your house, sir, if that's a problem that you have, try turning off the circuits. If you don't believe me, just go to the breaker panel, turn off the circuit to the bedroom. If the lights don't go out, find that circuit. If the room next door doesn't go out, find that room. If it's an upstairs bedroom or you've got a basement, turn off that circuit. Just try it for a week. You might not get all of them without measuring, but you'll get most of them. Turn them off for a week. See what happens. Then you'll know it's worth getting the meters, doing the job correctly, getting an EMF Safe cutoff switch. You'll be amazed what pushing this button can do for you.
It'll make magic happen, literally. That's awesome, and that's a great test. There's no downside to that for anyone out there, and
it's a freebie.
That's such a great one.
Prove us wrong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Super cool. You are making love come back again, sir. You're bringing love to the world. This is great.
We've saved a few marriages.
That's amazing. That's so, and I don't doubt it at all. It makes complete sense to me. These things are so damaging that people don't understand. And there are lots of different pieces to the health puzzle. I talk a lot about diet on this podcast. Personally, I think that's one that a lot of people have wrong. But this is another huge one. This is a major, and another one is the light. We haven't really talked about light a whole lot, but you said red light is a big one. And I would love to get to that in a moment. But real quick, something I want to touch on, which you mentioned earlier, was the sensitivity of kids to this stuff. I think this is such an important thing to really drill on, because as millennial, Gen X, I'm assuming you are, we need to really focus on the next generation of little ones coming out here, the little kids that are being born and raised by us. We need to make sure that they aren't raised with these issues that a lot of us were, because we didn't know any better, our parents didn't know any better, and we just have to get this really figured out. So could you dive into a little bit more? What makes kids more sensitive to this stuff, and why do we really need to focus on that, especially for parents out there?
Yeah, well, remember I said that EMF is cumulative. So my grandfather was in the crowd at Southampton that watched the Titanic set sail. They grew up, barely had electricity. They'd only just got it if they had it. Barely had radio. No television, no computers, none of the gadgets and gizmos. So his exposure to EMF growing up was 1,000, 10,000 times less than my parents. His kids grew up with, my parents grew up with radio and, black and white TV. When I was a child, we had black and white TV. We didn't have color TV in England at the time. Certainly no computers, cell phones, and things like that. So kids growing up today with cell phones, with iPads, with computers, with televisions, with cell phone towers in the neighborhood, with smart meters, with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth going the whole time in the schoolroom. How many schools have you seen with a cell phone tower on the property? Their exposure is not 1,000, 10,000 times more than my exposure was, or my parents or my grandparents was. So how long does it take to load the camel? My grandfather's camel never got loaded. He was never exposed to that much. My parents' generation, some of them, by the time they got to 60, 70 years old, their camel was loaded. Depends how much technology they're exposed to. My generation, now at 40, 50 years old, the camel's loaded. The kids today, their camel can be loaded by the time they're 17, 18, 15. Yeah, and that's why, because it's cumulative. So that's why children, they're not more sensitive. They're exactly as sensitive as we are or we were. Their exposure, the person who smokes 1 cigarette a day is probably going to get away with it. But 20, 30, 40 a day? No, you're not going to get away with it. It may take 5 years or 10 years, but you're not going to get away with it. Our kids are smoking 40 a day, relatively speaking, using that analogy to EMF. It's going to have an effect on them, and it is having an effect on them. And it's dramatically affecting their brains, their development. Some of these changes that happen to the brain, the rewiring of the brain because of exposure to non-native EMF, not just the blue light and from the screen time that they have, but the wires, the 60 hertz from the wires in the walls, the electric fields, the magnetic fields, the radio frequency, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth. This is having a permanent effect on their brains, creating conditions that they'll never grow out of, because when you stop at 18, 19, 20, 21, and you realize that this was part of the problem, it's too late. So number one thing that parents can do for their children today is restrict their exposure. Be a good parent. Say no. Allocate, you get an hour. That's it. Nothing after sunset. Nothing. Have you ever heard of books? You should really look into books. Google books. You'll be amazed what you find.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just when you look at the average daily life of a young child these days, they wake up in their bed, which, like you said, is likely full of EMFs in their room. They have their cell phone at every age now next to them. They put on their shoes. Well, first they have their processed breakfast cereal with soy milk, which is terrible. Then they go on the bus to school. They go sit in a classroom with terrible fluorescent LED lights just blasting their eyes out. So everyone's wearing glasses at like 10 years old now. And you're just constantly surrounded by just horrible toxic forces. You never touch the ground. Your feet never touch the earth. That's another big one. And I'm sure you're a big fan of grounding, and that's the benefits that can have. And let's go into that, actually. What are your thoughts on grounding? How important is this? Because we're talking about all these frequencies in our body, and that, to me, that's one that I have been really trying to do as much as I can. I'm barefoot right now, and I walk up in my backyard when I can. So how powerful is grounding as a good tool to fix some of these problems we have with all these different man-made frequencies everywhere?
Okay. This comes with a warning. It's going to upset a lot of people. First of all, let me say, I pointed out to you, I've mentioned it earlier, our bodies run on DC voltage, not AC voltage. Our bodies run on DC voltage, and Mother Earth, nature, runs on DC voltage. The number one most powerful thing to positively impact their health anybody can do is ground outside nature. That means getting your bare feet, your hands, your knees, get down on the ground, lay on the ground in the grass, hug a tree. Those roots go deep down into the ground.
It is not woo-woo, people. You hug your trees. They love you. This is so good for you.
So grounding outside Grounding in nature is one of the most significant and most important things anybody can do. Watch the sun rise with your bare feet on the ground. So all of that energy coming from the sun hitting your body is grounded out, and the negative ions from the ground are coming up into your body. And there's a synchronicity, there is a balancing of all of the energy fields in your body in perfect harmony with nature according to design. The most powerful thing you can do, but it comes as a nasty shock to people that to ground in nature, you actually have to be in nature. Connecting a wire to your big toe, plugged in the wall of your house, or a 50-foot wire out the window with a metal stake in the ground, all you've done is you've attached an antenna to your body that's now attracting radio fields, magnetic fields, and electric fields. When you ground, you become part of the circuit. Outside in nature, this is good. This is wholesome. This is part of the design that helps our bodies to, which is another reason why our parents and grandparents, whatever EMF that they had as they were growing up, as the technology developed, they spent 90% of their life outside. We spend 90% of our lives inside. The artificial light that they had at night was incandescent bulbs, which emits infrared. The heat from an incandescent bulb is infrared. Those are the frequencies that you need that neutralize the blue light from any screens and things like that. So again, it's much, much closer to nature. But the man-made frequencies, if you attach yourself to the house wiring system, it's just not that piece of wire running from your grounding pad to the wall. You're now attached to the ground in your house. If you have a 1,000 square foot house, that's half a mile of wires. If you have a 2,000 square foot house, you're probably looking at a mile of wires by the time you add up all the grounds and all the neutrals, because the neutrals on the ground. Can you imagine in your head that antenna array that you are physically in contact with? How can that be healthy? The same people that tell you you need to get rid of your metal bed frame because the metal bed frame can attract these frequencies that are bad for you. Okay. You need to get rid of the mattress with the metal coils in it because the metal coils can act as inducers, and put those coils are putting those fields into your body. Okay. But it's okay to put a metal pad on the bed in contact with my body, or metal sheets attached to a wire, attached to the wiring system of my house. And if grounding to my house is so beneficial, why do I need to replace my metal bed frame and my metal coiled mattress? Why don't I just spend $20 and attach a wire to it and ground it to the house and be done with it? Why do I need your $5,000, $10,000 bed? So
yeah.
Also, let me add to that. If you haven't turned off the 60 hertz field, and you're grounding in your house, that 60 hertz field is now flowing through your body to ground all the time. Now, if I'm laying in a bathtub, I'm wet, but my exposure to the water is minimized. It's restricted to the water in the bathtub. Think of a bird sitting on a high power wire. They're fine. They're in the field, but they're not grounded. It's not flowing through them. They just happen to be in the field. They're fine. Ground that bird, you got a lump of charcoal. Now, we're not talking current here. We're talking fields. But if I'm in a 60 hertz field, I'm grounded, that field is now flowing through me all night to ground. That's the difference between being in a bathtub and being wet and being under a waterfall and being wet. In this analogy, the 60 hertz field is the water. By grounding in your house with a 60 hertz field, you are actually exacerbating the problem, not removing it. And the reason the body voltage meter goes to 0 when you touch the grounding pad, because the field that my body is being induced into my body is going through the meter to ground. It's following the path of least resistance to ground. So if I'm sitting in 3000 millivolts, I can measure that because I'm not grounded. It has to go through the meter. If I touch the grounding pad with my hand or my foot, this goes to 0. Because now the field is discharging to ground through my hand or my foot because the meter is adding resistance. Through the pad, there's no resistance. Through my hand, there's no resistance. I'm still in 3000 millivolts. The meter says 0 because the field is now going through the foot, my foot, to ground, not through the meter. The field didn't change. So the people that are selling grounding equipment using a body voltage meter, they touch the pad. See, the field's gone away. No. The field is still the field. You didn't turn anything off. The field is still the field. It's not going through the meter anymore. It's going through your hand or your foot to ground. You still have 3000 millivolts. But now instead of being in the field, in the bathtub, you're now under a waterfall, and that field is flowing through you all night long, which is why some people start grounding and they get worse. And that's the reason why, folks. And I'm hearing some people say, well, I started grounding and I felt great. Yes, because if you're really sick, even grounding in a house, the benefits outweigh the negatives. The positives outweigh the negatives. And you can go from being really sick to not so sick. But if you're reasonably healthy, grounding in your house will not make you more healthy. It will most likely take things away from you because you're now exposing yourself to more of the problem than you had before. Ground outside, away from the house, away from non-native EMF, away 6 to 8 feet away from your house. What are the best, most positive things you can do? Yes, I'm for grounding, earthing, physically in contact with Mother Earth. Grounding to your house electrical system, not so much.
I love it, and I agree. I have heard some friends say that they felt some benefits just from those mats, but no one will ever convince me that you can beat just standing in the dirt or the sand or the water. I mean, that's clearly going to be the best.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure. Like, have you heard of people say that they have had good things? Do you think that's just a placebo, or maybe it's slightly better than what they're having before, or do you think that it's all in their head?
I think some of it's placebo, but you know, like I said, if they are in a particularly not good condition, can the benefits outweigh the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? For some people, temporarily they can, but as they get better, they'll find that the grounding works less and less. They get less and less benefit from it. So if you have a grounding pad, and you say, well, I know when I first started using it, I felt the benefits. Great. How long ago was that? 3 months, 6 months, a year? Take the pad off the bed. Don't just unplug it. Remember, it's metallic. It's attracting EMF. It's metallic. Take the pad off the bed. Don't just unplug it. Take it off the bed for a week and see if having it not there now, because your body hopefully has improved, you're at a different health stage now. If you don't feel better with it off, put it back on. Wait for 2 or 3 months, sleep for a week without it. And I would recommend everybody do that all the time. I don't care what you're doing, health-wise, nutrition-wise, EMF-wise, red light therapy-wise. Try it for a while. If you're getting benefits, keep doing it. But after a while, stop doing it and see if you don't notice an improvement by not doing it, or if you get worse If you slip back a little bit, okay, now you've confirmed that that is beneficial to you. So keep doing it for a few more weeks, few months, and then stop doing it. And you should do that with everything you're doing to make sure that it's still beneficial, because maybe it was beneficial for a season, and maybe you're still in that season and you've confirmed that, or maybe you're out of that season and now that's actually hindering your progress, and you'd be better off either doing nothing or finding something else to take you from, that got you from A to B, but now you're at B, and what got you from A to B may not be the thing to get you to C and to D and to E and to etc. So test these things, measure, and you will know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best way to just confirm it for yourself. I'd love to pivot real quick to something I heard you talk about on the Decentralized Radio podcast, which is looking back into history, how we have examples of certain things that we were told were one thing. For example, the Spanish flu is one he talked about, actually turned out to be EMF sickness. Could you talk a little bit more about that? What are your favorite examples? I'm very glad you smirked a little bit, because this is something I love talking about, how the things we're told in history are not as they seem. Talk to me about what are the best examples out there of these mass sicknesses that actually just turned out to be from EMFs that we weren't told about.
Well, one of the ones where this shows up the very first time was with the very first EMF, which was the electric telegraph. So the electric telegraph, all the operators and all the people that lived close to the wires, because that was a wire that was strung on poles across the country so that the telegraphs, they could talk to each other. All those people that were associated with the telegraph got flu-like symptoms. Things now that we recognize as being EHS, electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome. They got EMF poisoning. They were toxic and their bodies responded to it. And those flu-like symptoms have turned up in society purely coincidentally at the same time that radio was introduced into society, that street lights and house lights were introduced into society, that as radio expanded into new areas, as television expanded into new areas, and they're broadcasting that signal through the air. When cell phones were introduced and new frequencies, every time it's a new frequency. And it's not a natural frequency, it's a man-made frequency. We get radio waves from the sun and from space all the time, but they are natural. And they do affect our bodies. I don't know how many people, we're recording this in June of 25, and in the last couple of weeks we just had some massive solar flares, electromagnetic fields hitting the earth, and massive earthquakes around the globe. The ring of fire is on fire. Earthquakes that have been dormant for years, Etna and other volcanoes are erupting. These magnetic fields are affecting Mother Earth in a very significant way that we can see with our eyes. They're also affecting us. The whole idea of people being lunatics during the full different phases of the moon, you can ask anybody, even today, that works in a hospital, what's their busiest time of the month? Full moon. Full moon. Heart attacks, you name it, significantly higher during that phase of the moon. We are affected by, and these are natural frequencies. Add to that the man-made frequencies. It is purely coincidental that every time we introduce a new frequency to the general population, there's a flu outbreak. Both you and I know of Dr. Jack Cruz, who was was trained originally as an oral surgeon and then became a neurosurgeon. And when he was at medical school, the head of his clinic, old guy getting ready to retire, there was a case of I think it was lung cancer. And he called all the students and said, I want you to see this. You need to study this case because it is so rare. The odds of you ever seeing this ever again in your medical practice is remote. Now it's common. Now it's common. Why is that? What's changed? A number of things have changed. The additives to the food, the EMF, the vaccine schedule. There's a bunch of contributing factors, and it's probably not any one thing, although it probably is one thing for certain people. But that one thing is different for different people. But it's the accumulative effect of all of these things. If the camel wasn't loaded, the straw wouldn't have broke its back. If your EMF exposure was low, why does smart meters really mess up some people? Like within days, they get symptoms. And the next door neighbor, they're fine. Because the next door neighbor's camel isn't loaded. So it's not a straw that breaks their back. Their exposure is significantly less, or their cumulative total is significantly less. They haven't reached that point yet, and their body can handle it. It's still having an effect. Unload your camel. I don't care if it's food colorings, food additives, anything man-made, anything synthetic, man-made EMFs. Reduce your exposure. Unload your camel before you reach that point where that one straw breaks your back. Because those people, and I deal with EMF sensitive people, hypersensitive people, their lives are miserable. You don't want to change your lifestyle. Oh, I'd have to turn off my Wi-Fi at night, and I don't want to do that. I'd have to charge my phone away from the bed in another room. I want my phone by my bed. Trust me, once you've hit the wall, your lifestyle will change dramatically. If you need your phone on, if you're a medical person and you're on call, go to Staples, get a letter holder. This is metal mesh. Put your phone in it. This is by my bed. I've got 3 layers of metal mesh for that signal to get to, but the phone can still receive phone calls, but I'm not getting radiated all night. I'm shielding myself from the signal coming from the phone. You're on call? Fine. You got a family emergency, somebody needs to, you need to be available. Have the phone by your bed, but shield yourself from the phone so you're not getting radiated all night. There's some very simple, easy $10 fixes.
That's very interesting.
They make bigger ones for letter holders. It's a concertina thing like that, but it's big. Stick it in front of your, if you've got to have the Wi-Fi on, I recommend everybody hardwire the Ethernet, the Wi-Fi, but let's say they have to have their Wi-Fi on for whatever reason. You actually don't, but okay. Put the letter holder, which is a bigger one of these, between you and the Wi-Fi. Don't cover it up. Just put it between you and it. So if it's sitting on your desk 4 feet away, by the way, if I take a RF reading 4 feet from a microwave oven, and I hear people saying, oh, I got rid of my microwave years ago. Why? Well, all the obvious reasons. Because even though, the door stops the microwaves from coming out, there's still leak. Yeah. And if I'm 4 feet from my microwave oven, I get a reading on my RF meter. Guess what? It's exactly the same reading I get 4 feet from my Wi-Fi router. It's exactly the same reading I get 400 feet from a cell phone tower. You wouldn't put up with a cell phone tower 400 feet from your house. Or you'd be very concerned about it once you get educated about EMFs, and you'd be thinking about moving or painting that side of the house to shield yourself from that, as you should. You wouldn't sit with a microwave oven on your desk 24/7 If you use a microwave oven, you slam the door, you push the button, and you walk away, and it's only on for 5 minutes, 2 minutes. And even then you walk away from it. But you've got a Wi-Fi router, some of you maybe in your bedroom, some of you maybe in your office. You wouldn't use a microwave oven for 5 minutes, but you're sitting next to the equivalent of a microwave oven, putting out exactly the same field 4 feet from it as a microwave oven, and you're sitting in that for 5 hours. Wake up.
Yeah, lots of stuff there for people to dig into. And my favorite thing that you talk about is the unloading the camel. That I'm writing that down on my notepad right now, because that's a great thing to just think about for people. And also, it's important for people to not stress out over the mistakes they've made in the past. I certainly made many. The vaccines were one of them. I was raised on them. I look back and just cringe now, knowing what I know. But all we can do is make changes right now and unload our camel in the best ways we can, implement all of these things now. And as I mentioned earlier, like for the parents out there or the hoping to be parents, think about how cool it's going to be able to raise your kids so much healthier than you were. And the fact that they will just have an amazing foundation, and we're going to see a beautiful future where the next generation is able to skip all these steps we had to go through ourselves. And that gets me really excited. And I see so many examples of people making these changes.
I talk to parents and they say, oh, we can't take the iPad or the iPhone away. In Europe, it is illegal for children below the age of 11 or 12. I can't remember what the age is. It is illegal for them to have a cell phone. It is illegal in Europe for them to put a cell phone tower within, I don't know if it's quarter or half a mile, but within a certain distance of a school or a hospital. It is illegal for them to put up cell phone towers close to schools. All their computer labs are hardwired. It's illegal for the kids to have phones. They know, they acknowledge the ill effects of EMF. There's a reason why they're allowed in America. But yep, you will pay the price. You will pay the price. Your child will pay the price later in life if you don't restrict their exposure now, be it to coloring and preservatives in food, or non-native EMF, or blue light from the screens. If you don't restrict their exposure now, they will be paying the price with their health in the not too distant future. Not when they're 60 or 70. Some kids when they're 16 or 17. Some it might be 30 or 40. But diseases that were rare in 70 and 80-year-olds a few years ago are now common in 30 and 40-year-olds. Why? What's changed in culture? What's changed in society? Measure, understand, mitigate, and mend. Yeah.
Beautifully put. I can't think of a better way to start wrapping it up than that. Anthony Smith, where can people go to learn more about all of this stuff and check out your product line? As you mentioned, there's a bunch of stuff on your website that can help people with this. So where should people go?
Yeah, liveemfsafe.com, LIVE-EMF-SAFE, F for Frank, E, liveemfsafe.com. And there's videos there. There's lots of material. Go to the 101 page. Go to the measure page. There's videos there on how to use the body voltage meter, how to set it up, how to use it, how to take the readings, how to understand and interpret them. We sell the body voltage meter and the cornet meter. The cornet meter is a little, I don't have one here, but a little white device. Looks very similar to this. And that is a quad meter. It measures electric fields, magnetic fields, radio frequency, and it's calibrated now. The new one is calibrated for 5G. So it's picking up all the new frequencies, which are delivered at a faster rate. So some of the old meters don't measure because they're not calibrated to get the faster bullets, because the RF comes in bullets and they sped up the rate of the bullets. So the older meters don't pick up the 5G signal. This one does. And it's also got a light flicker meter on it. So you can actually use it to measure the flicker if there is any flicker, and what the rate of the flicker on the bulbs in your house is, which is something we didn't really get into. But those lights are flashing at 60 times a second, just like the electric field is vibrating at 60 times a second. That is affecting your brain. And that's hard work on your brain. You don't see it consciously. You can just get a cell phone, record the lights in your house in slow motion, and then play it back. You'll see the flicker. That is having a very negative effect on your brain. So by replacing your bulbs, reducing the non-native EMF, creating a sleep sanctuary, the body voltage meter, the coronet meter, this equips you, gives you the information you need to make an informed decision, and empowers you to mitigate, and then rewards you with the reading afterwards versus the reading before. Imagine how this guy felt. 12,000 millivolts on his bed, and now he's turned off a few circuits and he's down to, somewhere around 100 millivolts. That's a feel good. That's a feel good. So
yeah.
Mentally and physically, just feeling good that you're making changes in your life. That's can't be discounted either. People see all these physical benefits, but it's also lots of fun when you start finding these pieces that you can improve, and you feel better, and you get to share it with other people, and you really get to see this decentralization of health and holistic health improvement. And it's a very beautiful thing to witness. And so really appreciate the work you're doing, spreading the word on this, getting out there, being fearless in the stuff you're talking about, going everywhere. We need more people like that. So I appreciate it very much, Anthony. And I look forward to keeping in touch for more content. I look forward to eventually having my own house. I'm not traveling all around the world like a crazy person, where I can really lock in with your products and then be able to use that myself.
And 10% discount for listeners of the show. There's a 10% discount code, which will be in the notes. So
yes, Ben10, Ben10. I'll put that in there. I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
10% discount. So it's our pleasure. Thank you for listening, everybody. Go to the website, and if you have questions, we're also available for consulting, for counseling. So look forward to hearing from you all.
Yes, excellent, Anthony. Thanks so much again. Have a good one.
You're welcome.